There are no shortcuts to building wealth today. It takes time, effort, sacrifice, and diversification. But today, diversification means something different than it did in the past. You deserve a more secure way to protect and grow your wealth. At Delta Harbour, we take this to heart. Our mission is to help by inviting you to add physical gold and silver to your wealth strategy. Book a free consultation today and let us show you how to protect and grow your wealth through the ownership of physical gold and silver. Let us show you the Delta difference. All right, welcome once again, Hard Money. John Scholes here and Darren Long as well. You want to reach out anytime, start investing. We're talking physical assets, gold and silver, deltaharbor.com, Harbor with you, because this investment is all about you, as you know. Want to reach out anytime by the phone, you can do that to 1-877-323-GOLD. 1-877-323-GOLD is the way you reach out. Maybe you have not explored this part of your portfolio. It is high time you do that with things going on. It's craziness for sure. Now, Darren, last week, we talked about insiders selling, a big topic with lots of feedback. Now here we are a week later, and it's a sea of red in the markets. Stocks around the world down, crypto as well down, currencies down. How about that Turkish Lira? We'll get to that. But lo and behold, one bright shining light in the mess is gold. You called it. Want to explain that for us, pal?
Well, as I always say every week, John, welcome to our listeners. Obviously, this is new for some and old for others, but the story, as I say every week, is unfolding, and it's right before our eyes. It's literally right in the middle of this. And the weekly turmoil of crushing inflation reports, coupled with a sudden slowing in consumer spending, which is seemingly a contagious thing because it's happening around the world. We talked last week about the misnomers of how you judge that data when there is less, in fact, consumer spending than more, just because the price rises. It's just inflation. Right. Couple that with what appears to be a very sticky currency situation in Turkey, and there's definite appeal to the safe haven assets such as gold and silver. Throw in the extreme fear of what appears to be yet another COVID strain finding legs, which might be resistant to the vaccines, and there you have major market fear. And the appetite right now for a turn in this market is growing right in front of our eyes. And as we tape the show, the Dow was down earlier in the day almost 1,000 points plus, just over 1,000 points, almost 1,100 points, or about 2.75%. TSX was down 2%, S&P down 2%, even oil, and I say thank goodness because it'll soften the blow at the pumps, it was off 10% today by barrel price by this morning. And we talked about it last week, insiders selling and what would have been normal profit taking, but based on what we're seeing might have been this intuition that there was just a small one or two triggers that were needed in order to create market fear. And usually that selling by insiders happens on the inside, on the top of a market. So that cycle's turning, and it appears though this is really the first stage of that big turn. But we saw the likes of Michael Burry, the Big Short, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Elon Musk, Tesla, Warren Buffett, all of them were insider sellings or halting on any buying of additional product. And it begged the question, obviously, what did they know that we didn't? Well, perhaps they knew sooner or later things would get too heated, and it takes only a trigger like the Turkish Lira or a new strain of COVID, coupled with the threat of perhaps runaway inflation pressures, to be the spark for a bit of a market revolt, which we're seeing today.
Again, 1-877-323-GOLD. That's the magic phone number to call Darren and the rest of the team and start exploring this part of your portfolio, which should be explored if you haven't done it already. At least get out, have a conversation with Darren and his team, and figure things out as far as physical metals are concerned. Okay, concerned. You mentioned that Turkish Lira. Give me some details. What happened there, or what's happening, I guess?
Well, the recent spiral followed a speech on the 22nd by their president, Erdogan, in which he said a tight interest rate policy would not reduce inflation. And he promised that Turkey would succeed in what he called a quote unquote economic war of independence. So he's going to take his one country amongst a sea of huge economies around the world and say, hey, Turkey's going to do things different than the rest of you, and followed that speech with 3 consecutive interest rate cuts by their central bank, which he claims was aiming to boost exports and jobs following the pressure from the economy and what was happening. Erdogan holds the unorthodox view that high interest rates cause rather than tame inflation. Most mainstream economists think the opposite, obviously, that lower rates and a weaker currency usually make it worse because imported goods cost more. His views have caused the lira's value to drop steadily over the past 5 years. And in March, he sacked the central bank governor who had been steadily raising rates to try and boost Turkey's economic standing. And if you look at their statistics, like the rest of the world, last month was one of the worst months by Turkey's own statistics for inflation they've ever experienced, 20% in 1 month, the month of October. Jeez. And that jump was before the lira's recent downward spiral, meaning you can expect there to be far more increasing drops in the value of their lira. So this is a huge problem, and it's going to create contagion in the area. And again, another trigger, another event that's occurring alongside the ones we mentioned before.
Again, you set a great example there, outlining, a country experiencing inflation and uncertainty. So what happens then? Do they turn to gold and silver?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question. They do for sure. I think there's no doubt that we have enough evidence around the world more recently to note that countries in trouble definitely do turn to gold. Iran turned to gold when inflation gripped their country among a sea of embargoes and things that were done to them for their nuclear testing programs by their countries. Venezuela, more recently, sea of inflation, their currency drops, has no value left. And of course, they're trading daily with gold, and they're using gold bars broken down into gram pieces to buy and sell their retail merchandise, their food things. And it's not a good spot right now, but we see it happening. Yeah. And it's they'll have to get products somehow into there because their dealers are going to be short on it. Turkey's not a particularly well-known region for production of gold and silver. It doesn't have a lot of connections. They don't have a huge mainstay of retail silver dealers. So it's going to be tough. And right now, believe it or not, before that happens, what the Turks are actually doing is they're buying up all the electronic goods that they know will be worth a fortune come a year's time from now when there's no economy left. So right now, they've actually, the government has actually halted people from buying electronic goods online. So they've stopped you from buying Apple products and all kinds of different things online because they don't want runs on this product to be used as currency or forms of currency. So they are in a real tough situation. But what we should really talk about is contagion. When we come back from the break, when we come back, it's a very important point when discussing market stability. So let's do that for sure.
We'll do exactly that, pal, in about a minute from now. In the meantime, if you've not explored this part of your portfolio, this would be a good day to do so, especially with what Darren has already laid the table with there as far as the markets and everything else. 1-877-323-GOLD. That's the number to reach out, deltaharbor.com. And you want to watch the videos, the video cast of this radio show, go to youtube.com/Delta Harbor. They, of course, have their own channel. You can subscribe and learn so much more there as well. We're talking physical assets, physical gold and silver, the stuff you can hold in your hand and drop in your foot. It makes a noise. You can store it. You can keep it at your house. You can do so many other things with it. And to get that portfolio started, you want to reach out to Darren and the crew, and we'll cover some of that in the next segment as well. But in the meantime, a quick break coming up. 1-877-323-GOLD is how you start making that happen. We'll continue. This is Hard Money on Sauga 960. All right, welcome back to Hard Money, Sauga 960, and on YouTube as well, youtube.com/Delta Harbor. That's Harbor with the U. This investment, always about you. Phone number to reach out, 1-877-323-GOLD, 1-877-323-GOLD. And that'll put you in touch with Darren and the guys. Before we get into this term contagion, I know you teed it up nicely, Darren, before the break, but let's just talk just for a minute or two about opening a portfolio and opening up an account with you guys for some physical metals, right?
Sure, John. It's the easy thing to do. Of course, we always say the easiest way is just to simply go to the website and venture over there into the product section to our e-store and pick up yourself some gold or silver. The products are there. The pricing is live. The payment options are all listed. Makes it very easy for you to do. And anything over 1,000 is shipped free of charge right to your home. And we'll sort out anything under 1,000 at a flat rate, I believe, of 35. So easy to do through the e-store. Lots of different silver and gold options there. If you want to make a larger purchase, you want some safety, security, you wanted added convenience of liquidity to buy and sell by a phone, I would recommend storage. We have storage accounts, the cost of which starts at 1% of the total metal value and goes down from there. And you can put that into a vault, which is free of the banking system. It's a private vaulting system, has your name on the account. It's your product with your serial numbers allocated to you and you only. And we can set that up very easily through Delta. And you can go and visit your product or make changes to your stack, whether you want to add or subtract, maybe perhaps start with silver, add some gold later, or vice versa. In addition to that, as you mentioned earlier, John, so eloquently as you do each week, you can put it into registered accounts. One of our favorite things to do. It's easy. Use the added advantages and umbrellas of a TFSA, which means your earnings on gold and silver are tax-free, which I love. This is one of the best things you can do. And it doesn't matter whether you've never had a TFSA in your life, as long as you qualify to have one, you'll have up to $75,500 that can be spent in that TFSA to invest in gold and silver. And likewise, the RSP, spousal RSP, the Lira. And if you already have an investment account elsewhere at another institution, worry not. We can bring that over to Delta Harbour with our partner, and we can open it up there and still be able to get gold and silver while staying under the umbrella of the RSP and TFSA to avoid any tax concerns or anything like that. It's very easy to do. And then last but not least, we have the option of bulk bullion. If you just want to have exposure to gold and silver, you don't care about bar numbers, you don't care about going to visit your bars, you just want to get some exposure to good old physical gold and silver, you can have the bulk bullion option, which doesn't give you any guaranteed bars, but rather guarantees 1-to-1 that you'll have all of your ounces accounted for in your account. And it is audited product, and it can be changed to allocated product if you'd like to hold 100-ounce bars, 10-ounce bars, 1,000-ounce bars. That option's there as well. But the best thing about the bulk bullion account, we'll go into a little more detail later in the show, is, John, you can use the option of collateralized financing, which means you can get up to 80% of your purchase financed. If you believe the price of silver is going up in value like we do, it may be the best option available to you. And that is also very easy to do by just going through to our website.
That would be deltaharbor.com, Harbor with the U, and the phone call works. Have a chat. 1-877-323-GOLD is how you get that happening. All right, that topic of contagion. You mentioned before the break, Darren, might be witnessing maybe early stages of a drop in sentiment, confidence in the market. Is it too early to tell? Or you all over this one?
Well, I think it is at the moment, John. It's a bit too early to tell. But when you put together so many ingredients in the same recipe and you start stirring them into the pot, you're inevitably going to get the smell of something cooking. And that's what we got right now. And that's where we appear to be. Uncertainty in the Asian markets with the fallout from Evergrande fueling market anxiety in their real estate sector. Uncertainty here, a lot of tension in the real estate markets in Canada. What will interest rates do? Are they going up? Are they staying where they are? There's tension in most major centers around the world with higher than average inflation. We've talked about that ad nauseum here on the show. And at the street level, far higher than normal. There's the fear of border closures now with a new strain of COVID that might be vaccine resistance, which, God forbid, we hope is not the case.
Yeah.
We have the fear that if we do not raise interest rates, we'll be left holding a runaway train of inflation. So what do people do? They start to turn to hard assets. This is a simple thing that's been done time and time again throughout history. I mean, we did it in the 70s. We did it in the 30s. We did it in the 20s. I mean, we did it in the 60s. I mean, all over the place. There's always been examples. We did it in the early 2000s, and we're doing it again now. So that fear of something happening usually means that people early on, like we've been doing over the last 10, 15 years, will add a little bit of peace of mind to their portfolio in the form of physical gold or silver, as we suggest. And they do it in tandem with whatever stock portfolio they have, whatever cash they have on hand. It's just part of the equation. But when these kind of trigger events occur, John, and there's fear coming from every angle of the world, what does it all mean? What is it going to mean? There is a lot more demand. And I'll give you a perfect example. As we tape this show on Friday, the overnight last night was our busiest night to date on our e-store. Again, world contagion, stock markets overnight start to show weakness. You've got major downside happening in the Asian markets, in the Euro markets, in the Canadian markets, with the TSX and the Dow in the US and the S&P all down this morning. And of course, lo and behold, the traffic increases on the website. So that's what people are thinking, and that's what they're doing.
Well, it's not like we don't have other examples of the bull market in gold and silver. I mean, to draw from, right? We've seen that before.
Yeah, we have seen it. I mean, we do. And therein lies the perfect way to state what we think will happen next if this contagion starts to manifest itself into something bigger, more widespread, or a sell-off over the next few weeks. If prices start to tumble, I want to make it very clear as we tape this show so people can clearly hear that we are not solely saying that gold and silver only go in one direction up. Right. We talk about ownership of gold and silver on many levels, one of which is for profitability. But so people clearly understand what we think is going to happen. If prices start to tumble in the broader stock markets over the next 2 or 3 weeks of the world with little to no warning, we expect to see gold and silver do the following. There could be a risk of short-term drop in gold over the next few weeks, maybe a few days, and a rebound after that. It could be followed once we see a broad market pullback in place. It could be followed by somewhat of a sharp drop, maybe a 5 or 10% drop in both gold and silver. It will follow stocks. But like you said, John, the point is that we've been here before. We've seen it happen before. The beginning of a spectacular rally always starts with some type of event or pullback. And I think back to no more than 2020. In 2020, the spring and onset of the COVID fear and the pandemic and everybody not knowing what happened, it sent sheer fear through the markets. Stock markets started to tumble. Gold and silver pulled back, and gold and silver were among the fastest to not only reclaim their previous highs, but reach way up beyond what they were going into 2020. Gold went up to almost 2,000 an ounce, while silver reached up to just over $30 an ounce. And that was something that is typical of silver and gold. There was profit taking, and then, of course, rebuilding of positions. So we think that that's more than likely something that's going to happen. And that's why we suggest to people the strategy of buying as you go. So if you're going to buy now because it's on sale right now, which silver and gold are, then you should be ecstatic if you saw a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% price drop in either gold or silver.
And we'll talk a little more about that after a break, because people often go the other way. They get scared, but we'll cover that. 1-877-323-GOLD is the way to make that phone call. Reach out to Darren and the team. You want to go to deltaharbor.com as well, and youtube.com/Delta Harbor to take advantage of the videos of this show. And of course, Darren mentioned it was huge overnight, will continue to be. So the e-store, lots of traffic there as well. Go to the website for more details on that. And we will continue. This is Hard Money on Sauga 960. Welcome back. Hard Money. Good to have you along on the show this week. It's an important week with what's been going on in the markets, et cetera, world politics, et cetera. That's what Darren often talks about and refers to when we begin the discussion of opening a portfolio for gold and silver physical metals. Get them into your portfolio if you haven't had them before. How do I educate myself? You make the phone call, 1-877-323-GOLD and deltaharbor.com, Harbor with a U. Like you said, there could be a short-term drop in the metals, Darren. A lot of people are going, oh, I'm scared now. I'm not buying them. They're going down. No, silly. This is when you want to get the portfolio happening. This is a great time to get to the e-store or make the phone call. And while the rats are leaving the ship, you jump on the ship. That's generally what we say, right? It's always a good thing to do.
It is, and we've always seen the highest amount of return from clients who have done it that way, John. I mean, myself included. I've always wanted to buy on the dips. I've always maintained that's the right time to enter. When nobody else is willing to take that risk, you take that risk. But again, those have to be weighed for each individual, John. They have to do their own due diligence. They have to come to the conclusion that's right for them. But buying is so simple. And in between the break there, I grabbed a 10-ounce bar of silver, which I'll hold up so people can see. We've done it before in the show, but I mean, this is just your standard Royal Canadian Mint 10-ounce bar of silver, so you can see how thick it is. You can see the back of it with the monograms on the back there. And again, a very simple type of silver to buy, the 10-ounce bar. Again, unlike real money, which I could drop and you'd never hear on the show, not because the microphone won't pick it up, is because it makes no sound. And likewise, in my mind, I think about real money being solid, real money being gold and silver.
Yep.
This does make a sound. You
that.
can hear that fall when it hits the table. And I apologize to my colleagues for dropping it on their desk. But that being said, that's real money to me. And I mean, if you want to buy some, direct to the website, put it in storage, registered accounts, TFSAs, RSPs. And we talked about financing, collateralized financing in the bulk bullion accounts. You could take up to 80% more bullion using this method and keep your costs extremely low while still maintaining the basic idea of ownership of physical gold and silver. Audited product, which is allocated to the account, one-to-one, never have to be concerned, no paper involved, not a futures contract, none of that baloney stuff that we don't believe in. And that means right now, if you wanted to own 1,000 ounces of silver, 100 of these bars, you could quite simply spend the total amount of outlay, which is going to take you into the $30,000+ range for 1,000 ounces. Or using this account, you could hold back a huge chunk of that money for a rainy day to cost average, to put into other investments short term, and lay out as little as 8,000 Canadian to still own and control that same 1,000 ounces of metal. And you get complete control of that, along with our expertise going hand in hand with you, helping you, holding your hand along the way. You get to make the decisions about buying and selling, and you get to profit from that entire 1,000 ounces. If you were to see silver move up only about $6.50 to $7 an ounce to about $30, which we've been to so many times before, you double your money in this approach. And I love this method. It makes ownership affordable, and it can be done with gold also. And if you're looking to make that kind of investment, you want to see that kind of return sped up because you believe wholeheartedly that silver is going much higher, this is a great way to do it. No delays in the ownership of that product. It's into the vault, and you can make changes anytime you want, or take it home if you like. Go ahead, take it home. Change to allocated product. Choose 100-ounce bars, 10-ounce bars. Pay off whatever you borrowed using the money you held back at day one, and you can still have that 1,000 ounces, no problem. Easy to do.
1-877-323-GOLD. Simple as well. Just make that phone call if you're ready to dip your toe in. Make the call and open that portfolio. If not, just get some more information. 10, 15, 30-minute chat with Darren and his team will set you straight. Indeed, deltaharbor.com. Interesting markets this morning as we're taping the show, Darren. It's all over the news. Doesn't matter where you turn. Very surprising detail, though, and that is that the cryptocurrencies were not holding their value. And Bitcoin, for instance, dropped a few points, started to get a little shaky. However, gold was holding its value. Why is this?
Gold did hold its value, and I mean, as we're taping here right now, Bitcoin's down 8.3% on the day. Gold is flush, no loss, no gain. So in fact, if you look across a broad spectrum of the stock market right now, it's a sea of red, and it's bleeding out everywhere. Dow's down over 1,000 points today. You're going to hear about it everywhere in the news if you haven't already by the time you listen to the show. I think it has to do with three important points, John, when it comes to cryptocurrencies: tangibility, confidence, and ease of use. Tangibility, because there's no physical crypto in the world. No cryptocurrency is an actual physical thing. It's all paper. It's all digital zeros and ones, like all other paper assets. And unlike gold and silver, which is tangible, which is hold in your hand wealth, which is known commodity, all right? Confidence, because unlike gold and silver, cryptos have only about a decade track record, and there are thousands of them doing thousands of different things on hundreds, if not thousands, of different platforms or exchanges. The crypto space lacks uniformity and consistency. It's getting better, and we've seen some tremendous returns from people who are astute enough to take very significant risk, well above what I think is the risk involved in owning gold and silver. But it's not there yet. And in addition to that, in areas of the world where we have seen significant economic upheaval, we've not witnessed, not yet anyways, an uptick in crypto usage or volume. But using a place like, let's say, Venezuela, we have witnessed an uptick in gold ownership. In fact, it has become the most favored way to transact with retailers and merchants, the best way to buy food, the best way to buy things you need to survive. not digital crypto, which leads me to my last point, which is ease of use. Gold is tangible. Therefore, a bar of gold can be broken into measurable, weighted, consistent, and pure bits very easily. And cryptocurrencies cannot be used efficiently, not yet. Although a user would tell you differently, probably if they own that because they're on the inside, the average person, the masses, have not adapted and accepted cryptos readily with ease. So these are differences that are making gold much more favorable as a safe haven asset. Do cryptos have a place in your wealth strategy? Well, for a lot of listeners, they will and have, but gold is still the mainstay. Gold is the grandfather of them all. It's tangible. It's hold in your hand wealth, which can be taken anywhere in the world and transformed into the local currency, including cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, it's interesting. At this time of year, though, you got to wonder, do you do much in the way of gifts for clients and buying that goes out to friends, family, the kids in the form of gifts? I know we got to take a break, but we could start on this one anyway. How do you see that?
Absolutely. We do gifts all the time. It's a great time to put a little something into a stocking for a loved one. And, listen, let's face it, the gift that keeps on giving too, right? I mean, listen, I can buy those gifts that kids and loved ones, significant others look at for a day or two and then lose the excitement of. I can buy those new gaming consoles and all that stuff, or I can start a registered account.
If you can
maybe
get
an
one.
RESP for a college tuition. What says I love you greater than spending on a person's education? We can put coins, gold bars, anything into gift form for any client that wants to do something snazzy and take care of a loved one with that. We do it all the time. We offer local pickup. But I will say this before we go to break, John, there is a rush. And I don't say that because I want to push anybody to buy. It's just a fact. It's going to take a couple of weeks to get everything delivered and set up. So now's the time. You got to do it now. And so if you are thinking about owning gold and silver as a gift, well, when we come back, we'll talk about walking through the e-store and why it's so easy and why we love it so much and how to get that gift home to you.
We'll do that phone call quickly, though, before the break. 1-877-323-GOLD, deltaharbor.com. That's harbor with a U, deltaharbor.com. We'll continue. We'll talk about, shed some light on the e-store after the break. We continue Hard Money on Sauga 960. All right, welcome back to Hard Money. So glad to have you on the show this week. It's an important one. It's the holidays are creeping up, and you're thinking, what am I going to put in the stocking? An orange, another gift card, bag of pistachios. Hey, I got an idea. Having a nice fancy little silver bar. I already got a couple. They're going in my daughter's stocking, and I'm going to say just leave them. And when you're 80, see what they're worth. And I think it's going to be the buy and hold mentality. But I digress, Darren. Always a good thing to do, and really easy now that you've christened the e-store at Delta Harbour. So that's a good way to start. By the way, deltaharbor.com and 1-877-323-GOLD. But tell me a little more about the e-store.
Well, before I do, John, I'm smiling and having a giggle because I saw the story this week on a couple of toys that were found in various retailers, which we won't bring the name up of, that had to be taken from the shelves. And I was having a giggle about it because, I mean, it just goes to show you. It was some doll that spoke a different language that was telling you to do very bad things, and I can't help but think that would be very interesting in the hands of the wrong kid. But that being said, it's an exciting time of year. It's the holiday season. There are so many different things to celebrate, from Christmas to Kwanzaa to, obviously, we can give a big Mazel Tov shout out to all our friends that are celebrating that particular thing this time of year with Hanukkah. But yes, gifts are a big thing for us. We think that giving is an important and extremely underestimated value when it comes to gold and silver. So even if you're buying a gram of gold, just to give to that loved one to say, hey, this is something that I think is of value, and this is one way for me to express it. And does gold and silver, well, I mean, look, here's a 10-ounce bar of silver. We'll show it again. And there it is, right? From the Canadian Mint. It's nice and thin. It's easy to give, and it's heavy, and it's real money. We did it before.
Love it.
Again, I apologize to my colleagues for their desk damage, but that's real money, and that says a lot, because that 10-ounce bar, which you might pay $300 and change for right now, 2 or 3 years from now, that 10-ounce bar could easily be $600-700. I wouldn't even second guess that price. It wouldn't even surprise me whatsoever, because it's already been there. I've seen the price of a 10-ounce bar reach $700-800. So I already know it's going to happen. But that e-store is a wonderfully simple place to go to on our website under products. And it's ease of transaction, all the products right there. Shop from the comfort of your home. You got the bill payment option. You can set us up as a bill payee. and make a bill payment. It's very easy to do. You don't have to worry about checks clearing. You don't have to worry about getting into the car and traveling down here. We'll send it to you free of charge if you're spending over $1,000, or there's a flat rate shipping fee of $35, or pick it up from our local office. Either way, we'll set you up and take care of you. And 'tis the season, John. I mean, I know.
Exactly.
You want to give me an ounce of gold to celebrate our friendship, I'm more than willing to take it.
Am I doing that? I'm going to talk to Rob first and see if it's a good idea. He's in the background. He'll give me the yay or nay on that one. Look, if you want to reach out and do so, go to the e-store at deltaharbor.com and 1-877-323-GOLD. Do you think now, maybe, finally, kind of, sort of, maybe the whole world is starting to slowly realize the problems with the economic system as we see things getting a little bit worse? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's just only human, John, for us to bury our heads in the sands. I mean, if you had the choice, one, bury your head and smile and go about your day, or two, dig into your wealth strategy and try to figure out where you could benefit from, with some complexities involved, with some, things that you might not understand right off the bat, and then lead down that path to some negative findings. What are you going to choose? I mean, obviously they're going to choose the former, because it's easier to bury our heads, to not look at our wealth strategy. But central banks aren't doing that. They're well ahead of the game. They understand what's happening. They're buyers of gold. I mean, they're putting gold aside. They're not telling us to do it. Banks around the world are not telling us to own gold. Go find me one, and I'll tell you that that's the most incredible thing I've ever seen, because I already know the answer. You will not find a single bank who's going to advertise, buy some gold for Christmas, unless, of course, you're in Asia, where they do it on a regular basis. But, you've got near zero interest rates. You've got the COVID event. You've got a huge jump in commodity prices up until recently. Look at what we're paying for oil and gas in our cars. It's ridiculous. I was talking about my F-150, tank of gas, regular gas, 132-liter tank. It's like $185.
It's crazy.
It's like a $6,000-7,000 a year gas bill just to get around and see folks and get some bullion to them. But hey, this is the world we live in. And so we're now looking at asset prices showing near hyperinflation trends going forward, and the global central banks taking very little action to address any of it. Interest rates aren't rising. They know they can't. They're burnt out with ideas. But if we were to hit recession right now, if we were to see a huge pullback in the marketplace, John, there is no telling what could happen, because we won't have the tools to fix it. We're not coming from a place of strength like we did in 2008, where interest rates had risen to 7-8%, and then we pulled them back to encourage spending and things of that nature. No, we've printed ourselves till we're blue in the faces. Look at right now what's happening in Canada, the just inflation talk going around and leading this charge. The Conservatives talking about how much inflation the Justin Trudeau Liberals have let out of the bag. And again, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, we all suffer. It's just that we don't know what the reality is going forward, right? You add to that China's economic concerns, their corporate debt issues, think Evergrande and the real estate problems they're having, and add to that the most recent fears of a new COVID strain, coupled with this very sudden pullback in the stock market and the Turkish Lira and other currency weaknesses. This is not subsiding anytime soon. This is causing a huge problem. And here in Canada, we're teetering on many very thin ledges when it comes to debt, interest rates, and the possibility of a very messy real estate drop. And we have to worry about stock prices falling on top of that and losing value in our wealth strategy. So while you can, I cannot think of a better time to evaluate that wealth strategy and to put gold and silver to use for you in your own portfolio. It's the time to do it.
1-877-323-GOLD is the number to reach out, get educated. Due diligence is the key. There's also the e-store, deltaharbor.com, to do all that as well, which we just talked about a few moments ago. Just inflation. I think I heard you say it. Just inflation. It's amazing. If nobody's trademarked it, I would. Maybe you can make some money off it. But as we continue on here for a couple minutes, pal, latest news from real estate here in Ontario, because I know that's one of your favorite topics.
Well, we have our friends over at Better Dwelling coming up with, really prudent and time-sensitive articles. And they don't do this because they're fear-mongering. They're not selling anything. They're just acknowledging that there are problems here. And one of the articles I did give a little bit of inkling was on last week's show we were going to talk about, but it's called Ontario Real Estate is the Most Overvalued in Canada, Slow Growth Expected. It's from Moody's. Moody's is a rating agency. We talked about it last week, and it's a huge concern. Basically, in a nutshell, they picked Ontario because its prices were the most overinflated. And they quote, and I quote from the article, Ontario real estate is the most overpriced in the country, surprising no one in the province. They estimate the province real estate market is approximately almost 23% overvalued through Q2 2021. And it's only gotten worse. And they see prices rising next year, but slowing overall in terms of the expectations. Throw in a huge recession, you know where I'm going with this, John. When we get back in the next segment, we'll talk more about it. But Moody's does not expect a sharp crash, and I think they're wrong in assuming that that's not a possibility. If interest rates rise from here due to inflationary pressures, there's a choice that the government has to make: either save the economy or save real estate. You can't have both. You can't raise interest rates and expect the real estate markets to survive. They won't. They're going to go negative. You're going to lose money. And we're going to see something similar to what we saw in the early 90s. Hasn't happened since. And, we'd have to look down to the south to see the example of when it happened down there. 2008-9, foreclosures and all that stuff. Why be exposed to it? Why not, instead of investing in real estate right now, think about putting it into gold and silver? So much less hassle, so much less red tape. No government's involved, no lawyers involved, no taxation involved. All you got to do is just do it the right way. And that is through Delta Harbour.
And we'll continue on with this conversation in a moment. First, a quick break. 1-877-323-GOLD, the number to reach out, get educated, start investing, open up that portfolio, or at least discuss it with Darren and the rest of the team. Online to deltaharbor.com, Harbor with the U. And while there, explore the e-store. Do it in your own home and open up that account right now if you wish. We'll continue. This is Hard Money on Sauga 960. All right, welcome back to Hard Money. A few minutes to go. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Again, if you want to go back through these shows, if there's something that piqued your interest, here's a simple way to do it: youtube.com/Delta Harbor. You'll see our ugly mugs up there, and you'll get the great content. So that's kind of a win-win. Maybe, sort of. If not, reach out to the phone number 1-877-323-GOLD and the e-store at deltaharbor.com. Okay, a little more about real estate before we get back into how somebody gets that account happening with physical metals, Darren. Yeah, I don't know. Real estate, it seems to be getting to be a little bit of a scary place, or it could be in 2022, I think.
I think it is. And I think we've been the beneficiaries of a tremendous boom in real estate prices. Great spot to own long-term wealth. We certainly would never talk negatively about the ownership of land or real estate, which puts revenue into your pocket. There's just an idea of balance here, John, and that's what it is. It's the best balance overall. When people are aware of risk, they can move to mitigate it and lower exposure. It's only when people see no risk that they become overexposed and amplify the shocks. That's what's happening right now. We all think we got a case of real estate can only go one way, and that's just not true. Having gold and silver in a portfolio that encompasses other traditional assets in tandem with the discussions that you should have as due diligence with the people you trust could be the most prudent thing that you could ever decide to do for your balance and your wealth strategy. Gold and silver are the most uncorrelated two assets you could put into a wealth strategy, which means when the going gets tough, gold and silver get going. I mean, that's what they do. And just think about the previous period of 2008 to 2011. The world experiences financial crisis. To some extent, Canada is not as affected as other parts of the world, especially the US. Gold rose from a low of 650 in the next 36 months to a high of 1920, or almost over 200% in less than 36 months. Silver did even better, as it usually does, rising from a low of around $8.50 in 2008 to a high of $49, or just a bit better than 475% over the same 36 months. The difference is the economy has not crashed just yet, but gold and silver have already started to move higher since last year. And if you look at them, just last year, gold could have been bought below 1,500 and silver below 12. Wow. So that is a tremendous jump from their lows of last year. And I get excited, John, because the best is yet to come, for sure.
I know before we close out for today, in the last few minutes, brought with you a press release, I think, from the Silver Institute, expects silver demand in 2022. I know this makes you so excited because that's your favorite metal. Do they believe demand's going to continue rise and go up like it is?
They did, and we didn't get to this last week. Physical silver investment is forecast via the Silver Institute, which is the world's foremost authority on demand and supply of silver.
Cool.
And they have nothing to gain from what they do. They just simply report the facts. But based on current trends throughout this year, they anticipate a jump of demand of 32%, which is forecast for next year, which is a 6-year high. The statement came out on the 17th of November, and every single key area of silver demand was forecast to rise, including what they say is going to be a record demand for industrial silver. And you got to think of it this way, John, where we're heading, the green economies of the world, right? Just think of it in terms of where that future demand is going. Solar technology, EV technology. These are the huge expanding centers for both energy and what we think will be the future of the car industry. And if you look at the very aggressive forecast model for electric cars going forward, they don't get made without silver. Every single electric car right now has around 2 ounces of silver in it. And it's not in the form of a silver bar being inserted somewhere or big hunk of 2 ounces of silver being put. It's on all the contacts and terminals. And it's easy to see when you look at it, but when you're not paying attention, we don't think about it. These are things we take for granted. You cannot have low supply, high demand, and a low price. This is what has existed for over a decade plus in the silver industry, and it's changing rapidly. So every single area of demand, including industrial demand, is going to rise despite the ongoing supply challenges. They had Philip Newman, who's the managing director at Metals Focus, and Adam Webb, the director of mine supply, during the Silver Institute's interim silver market review. They did this webcast and they talked about this demand and where it's going to come from. And they were excited. I mean, obviously they have a bias, and there's no two ways about it. When you're talking about this, there should be a bias towards ownership of silver, because it is the most undervalued asset, physical asset on the face of the earth, in my opinion. And they said not only was industrial demand going to rise, but as we said, photovoltaic demand is expected to increase by 13%, the green economy. Investor demand, again, another 30 to 40% rise. And 2021 is going to be yet another deficit year, John, in which we did not pull out of the ground enough to meet the demand, which means we had to draw upon the small amount of recycled ounces we have, and of course from existing supplies. So that is gone. I mean, next year when demand rises, it will again produce, in my opinion, an upwards trend in the pricing for silver, which will, in my estimation, by end of next year, double the price from where it is right now.
So in the meantime, get that portfolio started and be ahead of the curve. How do people do that, Darren?
Well, we talked about direct purchase through the e-store, a simple thing to do, but can also be a phone call. If you want to just do it the old-fashioned way, we answer the phones around here. We don't put you through a complicated system of answering and speaking with no human. We pick up the phones around here. Please give us a call or go directly to our website. You have the option of storage. Listen, if you're buying too much product to go home and it's not safe for you to own and have and control reasonably well with your liquidity by bringing it back to us when you need to sell it, storage is an option for you. That way you can buy and sell by phone. You can still make changes. And if, hey, at the end of the day, it turns out storage is not for you, you have the added advantage of being able to go pick up your product and take it home anytime you want. So you're not stuck with any commitment of time when it comes to storage. You have the option of financing through the bulk bullion accounts, which we talked about earlier, which is the option to use up to 80% financing for your purchase. This is the concept of other people's money. I mean, why risk your own? Hold back that money which you were going to spend. And we said earlier, the example was silver. You could do 1,000 ounces of silver, which has a market value of 30,000 plus right now. You could do 1,000 ounces of silver for as little as 8,000 Canadian. You could own it, control it. You make all the decisions and you profit from that 1,000 ounces. A move of $6 to $7, you've doubled your money. So if that's the kind of return you're looking for and the kind of risk you want out of your ownership, there's that option as well. But at the end of the day, John, no matter what you do, we showed it earlier in the show, but physical, that's what we deal in, the physical. This is a 10-ounce bar from the Royal Canadian Mint of silver. You can see its thickness, its size relative to my hand, and the sound that real money makes. We'll do it one more time. That's real money. right? Go ahead, drop $100 bill on the table. Nobody hears it. They see it, but it's only backed by the confidence of the people. And as you can tell from around the world and what's going on right now, that confidence is waning. The sentiment is that we are going to see some type of market event. It's time to balance and think about making important decisions to balance your wealth. This could easily be one of the best ways to do it and the most prudent ways to do it. Before we go today, John, last thing I want to say is that as this weather gets colder, I say it every year, every show, take care of the people that are less fortunate in your life. You see somebody who needs a little extra help, please get to the local food banks, get to the local shelters, give out some clothing that you don't need anymore, some footwear, and think about those that are less fortunate during this very difficult time.
Well said and done for another week. Reaching out to Darren and the team. Here's how you do it one more time before we close. 1-877-323-GOLD, deltaharbor.com, Harbor with you. And to watch more of these video casts and learn more, you want to see that silver bar, the 10-ounce beauty. You can do that on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Delta Harbor. We'll catch you next time right here, Sauga 960 on Hard Money.